So, welcome to another episode of the New York Information Security Meetup. I have the great pleasure to introduce Ed Carr, who is Director for Cyber Security Recruiting at BeecherMadden. How are you, Ed? Thanks very much for joining.
Thanks for having me, David. Yeah, very good today. Very good.
So, where are you talking from today? Where are you based out of?
I'm in Hertfordshire at the moment, which is about an hour outside of London. We're all working from home sort of 3 times a week, two days a week in. It helps me do both time zones over here. So yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
So, listen, the reason why I asked you to join the show, and I very much appreciate it, is because we love to unravel. Recruitment is a bit of an enigma, for a lot of people, and
Yeah.
people. And it's the problem with it is that people think they know what recruitment is all about, and they definitely have an opinion about it, but in actuality, it's very, very different. So, why don't we kind of dive into first and foremost your background? You have a very impressive background in terms of what you've done. Not just in recruitment, but also entrepreneurship. So you've kind of built recruitment businesses in the past, and joined this company through an acquisition. So why don't we just get started and talk to me a bit about your past, how you got into recruitment, what was kind of milestones along the way, and whatever else you can share. That'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So my path into recruitment was a little bit different to the kind of standard answer you probably get. You'll probably hear people telling you all the time that they fell into recruitment. It's kind of the thing that everyone loves to say. I was actually in a sales role. So instead of going to continue with studies, I just got into sales. I was selling software at the time, and was trying to sell into a recruitment company who said, "Look, I think you do really well in recruitment. So why don't we come and have a coffee, have a chat, and talk it through?" So that was like my entrance into the space, if you like. I started doing technology recruitment when I just turned 20 years old, so almost a lifetime ago now. I've worked in several scarce marketplaces, so it's always been finding the most sought after technology talent at that point. But since 2013, it's been purely in the information security space, so filling mid to senior level security roles across the UK and the US, doing far more now in the US than we are in the UK, such as the way that the market's developed. For the previous business I was working for, I came in, there was nothing in place in terms of information security recruitment, so I grew that from nothing. We brought on a lot of consulting clients. We had defense, aerospace clients, a lot of fintechs. Fintech back then was new, right? So no one really knew what it was all about, and still like an idea. And I kind of grew that to a size where I needed to move to a business that matched my own ambition and really wanted to be number one within the space. So that's why I came to BeecherMadden. And since I've been with BeecherMadden, I've just progressed through the rankings, if you like, within the business. And I now run BeecherMadden as an entity. So we work within a company called Nicole Curtin. The Nicole Curtin group of companies is our parent business, which covers the whole of Europe. We have an office in Zurich, we have an office in Singapore, and obviously office in London. And we're known for doing technology recruitment. It's what they've done, what we've done since the early 90s. So that's my career in a nutshell, if you like, and kind of where I've come from and what my background is. Yeah.
Awesome. So why don't we dive a little deeper into some of the section that you provided? So, for example, I noticed that you are proving commitment to the space specifically, and you've gone through some formal education in cybersecurity. And it's not trivial. Not every recruiter that does cybersecurity has gone through the trouble of doing that. Why did you decide to do that, and what kind of academic kind of background did you decide to pursue?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It was two reasons. One, I am really interested in cybersecurity. Like I think it's amazing. I think that the way Hollywood portrayed it before it was cool has almost come to life. Right? It's amazing. I mean, we've all seen the films. Like I think one of the most recent Die Hard films had a huge cyber element to it. We had Black Hat in it with Chris Hemsworth playing a hacker.
By the way,
Very strange.
When I saw that, I was like, hackers don't look
Very
like that
strange.
necessarily.
Yeah, I think he's better at 4 than he is at, but whatever. And I loved it. I thought, wow, this is interesting. How can this help me with my career? And the more reading I do on it, the more knowledgeable I become. Because I think what separates me and BeecherMadden from our competitors is actually knowing about the space. So, I'm able to have a conversation with candidates and kind of ask for their opinion and also give my own opinion on trends within the market, or how I think certain things are going to react and what outcomes are going to come from that. So it was twofold. It was because of my interest levels, and it was because I knew it would help me out with what I do on a day-to-day. CISOs and partners have very busy days. They don't necessarily want to talk to a recruiter, especially someone who doesn't really know about their space or the value that they can bring to them. But if you have someone approach you who clearly knows what they're talking about and will add value, then of course you're going to listen to them, and of course you're going to meet with them. So it's certainly helped me out in a big way. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's all about value at the end of the day, and it's true for not just for cybersecurity recruitment, but for everything else. It's and you have to show that, you have to prove that. You can't just say that. So it's and these security professionals, I think within minutes they'll know whether you're trying to fake it or not.
Yeah.
And you can agree with me, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the best things, is because way back in my career when I started, that no one was really shopping recruiters. Now, what I mean by that is no one was really looking at a recruiter's background or a recruiter's credentials. They were just kind of blind faith, kind of trusting recruiters. And we've all heard horror stories over the years about bad recruitment practice or lack of feedback or just a bad relationship with a recruiter. So for me now, I always encourage candidates to look before you engage with somebody for a career move. I mean, this is a big thing for someone to do, right? Before you engage with someone, have a little shop around, see what they're about, see if they've placed anyone you know of, see if they placed anyone into the companies that you want to join. Do they know about what they're doing? Do they work for a reputable firm? Check out that firm's website, check out that firm's posting. Is this what they're known for doing? And is this something they're respected for doing? And if so, absolutely partner with them. But if you have any concerns at all, tread lightly and choose wisely would be the advice on that. But yeah, it definitely helps. Yeah.
Ed, you're stealing my thunder. I was about to ask you how to choose a recruiter. You're stealing all my questions. Yeah. So why don't we take that route as well? So just naturally progress. So one thing is, you're right, to have to figure out who you're working with. It's just like working with any other agents, whether it's real estate agents or other agents. So you got to pick wisely. Are there any best practices that you recommend? Because it's a two-way street, right? So one is you are an agent, quote unquote, working with that potential candidate. What would be a best practice for to make this relationship successful?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I mean, the easiest way for me to talk about that is because of something that happened to me last Wednesday. I actually placed a candidate into a senior manager incident response position, and this was someone that I'd actually known since 2013. Right, they actually came to me as an associate consultant at the time. They wanted to get into cyber and kind of learn what they were doing. And their approach works for everyone. What I would say is, front load your engagement. Okay, recruitment and recruiters are immensely busy right now. I mean, we've just come off a period of success, which has seen us have our best year ever at the end of July. Right. So if we didn't lift a finger between now and the end of the year, we've still had our best year ever. That's how busy we are currently. So front load your engagement. And what I mean by that is say, look, this is what I'm about. This is what I want to be doing. These are ideally the companies I want to be doing it for. And these are the reasons why. For me, everything falls into 3 different areas. There's lifestyle, there's money, and then there's career. And every single reason as to why someone would want to move falls into one of those categories. My bonus isn't as good as the competition's. Well, that comes down to money. The workload is insane. I haven't seen my children. I'm working all the time. I'm being sent everywhere. That comes down to career and lifestyle, right? So it all fits into one of those 3 areas. So I think if you can front load with a recruiter and tell them exactly what you're about quickly, you'll get more out of the relationship. Of course, all good recruiters are going to ask you questions as well, right? Because they're going to want to know who you are and get a feel for who you are as an individual, as a personality, so they can match that up with the culture. But I would say lead in with what you want to get out of
I have a question in regards to that. So you mentioned that you were doing sales at the beginning, and so you know how it is, right? When you talk to a potential buyer, they don't necessarily tell you right away what is their trigger,
yeah,
and or they may tell you four different things, but really it's only that third piece that really matters.
yeah.
Is this also the case here where they might tell you, "Oh, I'm all about a salary," but really they're about lifestyle and a salary. So how do you, as a great recruiter, try to sift through and kind of peel the onion, figure out exactly what is the trigger for that candidate?
Yeah, you're right. And what is quite an interesting thing is when I'm on the call or when I'm in meetings with candidates, is when they realize that what they're saying is the real reason as to why they're looking to move is actually something different. And that happens quite a lot. Um, I mean, it comes with experience, right? Like for me, there's a lot of patterns in career paths. So someone who's been a senior manager at one particular firm for 4 years, I know we're going to lack certain things because of the way that industry is. So I'm going to know already where they could go, and I'll have a front-loaded, kind of route for them or some options for them. So it comes with experience in terms of how you establish that need and how you identify that. But most of the time, it's also a kind of a way of the way in which you question candidates, because to be good at what you do, you have to know what the best outcome is going to be for the candidates you're working with, and also how that ties into what the clients want. So it's all down to the questioning and experience, really. It's not something that comes quickly. It's certainly not something that comes early in your career. So
Yeah, it takes
yeah,
expertise. That's what I'm saying. Is a lot of recruiters are they that are not don't have the expertise. They haven't spent enough time with candidates in hiring managers to understand.
yeah.
So tell me about, you were starting to tell us a story, and I love stories. So if you can continue with that piece, you mentioned that you were replacing something happened to you specifically with a
Yeah,
candidate.
yeah. So this guy, I've known him since 2013, and at the time back then, he was pretty much a grad. He just studied. I think he got a computer science degree. I can't remember what university it was from now, but he's just checked in with me throughout his career, and I placed him last week into a senior manager role. And it was just, for me, it was just a brilliant feeling to have somebody who I've known for so long to just showcase just how long term you can be in this industry, and how making relationships is really important. We've always said as a quote internally that today's candidate could be tomorrow's client. And I don't think that's ever been truer than now, right? Because we're seeing people grow very quickly in a professional development capacity. We're seeing people get promotions really quickly, and we're seeing them need to hire. So, yeah, that was a cool story earlier in the year. I mean, it's happened a couple of times, but it was just that one guy in particular, just because it was exactly what he wanted, and he really wanted to leave where he was. He was just so happy to finally make it happen, and to be the guy that did it for him was just a cool feeling all around,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned 2013 is where I, created the New York Information Security Meetup. So,
There you
and
go.
I've seen people progress as well. People coming to the events back then and then joining, looking for a job in the cyberspace, and then they end up, working for companies and progressing their career. So I've seen that progression as well. Now, tell me, it's a two-way street where, when you interview candidates, you also have potentially the ability to fire them in the sense that you don't necessarily think that they're going to be great for you because it's you have limited capacity. You can pick and choose now, especially with now we can pick and choose who you'd like to work with, and then the way the model works is that you typically don't get paid until the candidate is being placed, and so you got to choose wisely as well. Just like the candidate needs to choose wisely on a recruiter, you as a recruiter also have to choose wisely who the candidates are that
Yeah.
you like to work with. So, what is that process like for you when you're talking to a new person that you see as a potential candidate to work with?
Yeah, so Good question. I mean, it's difficult because there's so many people that want to get into cybersecurity that perhaps don't have a technology degree or background anywhere near cyber. You know, they could be doing something completely random. And if that individual approaches me, I'm very honest with them, and I tell them, look, my clients pay me to find them mid to senior level people with experience in this space. But what I say to them is, look, have a look at the adverts that we're posting, have a look at the jobs that we're working on, and then just grab as much free training online as you can for those subjects or those certifications, and see what you can do with that. So that's how I handle somebody who perhaps hasn't had any relevant industry experience. If someone's just a little bit outside of the mark as to what my client wants, I can always go out and get new clients, you know, and that's one of the exciting things about what I do is if I understand and fully, you know, kind of am in sync with what somebody wants, and I know the kind of companies that will hire for that, like I'll go out and proactively go to market with that person on their behalf and make it happen. And yeah, that's a really exciting part of my job is, you know, being able to just identify exactly what a person wants and then go out and get it for them. You know, so say someone wants to be a, you know, head of pen testing at a fintech, right? And there's only a certain amount of fintechs that they want to do because of what that particular fintech company is known for. You know, I'll go after that business and talk to them about this person I'm working with and kind of make it happen. There are people that I just, you know, I can't help, or, you know, we can get connected, absolutely, and we can talk through, you know, where you want to go, what you want to do, and what I do. And if it's not a match, then we'll just stay in touch, because sometimes, you know, building a network slightly outside of your network can work well for you, because there's always crossover and the way cyber's growing. So yeah, that's kind of how I steer. There's kind of three different examples there as to how I steer people who have different backgrounds that sort of come on my radar.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes sense. And we'll talk a bit about kind of the industry as a whole. But before we get there, you know, I just wanted to ask you. In recruitment has a bit of a bad rep sometimes, and not always, but everyone, at least that I've spoken with, some had kind of a bad experience at one point in time in their life if they were been in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
What are the causes for that, and what do you think can be changed in order for us to make this whole industry better?
Yeah. So obviously it's all going to be completely circumstantial, right? Like we don't know what was happening in that particular person's life at that time. I've had candidates just completely go off the radar on occasion and not answer their phone, not get back to me on email, and then a few months later update their LinkedIn that they found a new role. I mean, that's great, but you know, it's always good to just keep the door open for the future. Don't burn any bridges, and let people know what you're doing. I think from a recruiter standpoint, like I think more feedback is definitely needed. I think that, you know, if a good consultant gets feedback from their client for that candidate, explains to them why they were unsuccessful, I think that helps a lot when you think about the amount of prep that goes into an interview. If you've had 2-3 stages and then you don't hear anything back at all, like that hurts, right? And you know, I've been on the receiving end of that earlier in my career as well, and I can relate to that. So I think providing feedback needs to happen more in the industry in general. There are some recruitment organizations that their whole business model is built on volume. So instead of taking the time to send a quality shortlist of candidates that are qualified and have been vetted and, you know, have been spoken to about length about an opportunity, they'll just kind of send anybody, or they'll just send the people that they find first. And that model is very dated. It's very short-sighted, and unfortunately, I think that's kind of what drives the bad reputation within the space. But you know, candidates can detect that pretty early on, and I think if you take the time to probe a bit, ask the right questions with consultants and recruiters, you can identify who you can trust and rely on versus the others who are just, you know, quick buck merchants looking to make a deal here and there very quickly. But those kind of people don't last long, and you can see that by, like I said, mystery shopping them and checking them out, like I said earlier.
Yeah, totally. And what about the hiring managers and the companies that are hiring? I mean, they're not like, all that great sometimes as well. I mean, we've heard stories, and sometimes you're between a rock and a hard place where, you have a certain salary expectations in one candidate, and then, the hiring manager has a certain budget and so on, and you have to kind of navigate between the two. So tell me about that process like, and then, how do you, again, what are kind of the issues that sometimes float when dealing with hiring managers and hiring companies?
Yeah, so there's a whole host of stuff that can go on. I think that some of the issues that some companies face is they would have certain bands of salary,
Hmm.
and a candidate may just be in between the two, which can be confusing because that specific hiring manager is then facing off to their internal HR teams as to what level they come in at. So that can cause some confusion from time to time. I think that, you know getting everything in place at the beginning is an important part of it, and make sure everyone's aligned right at the start. One of the things we do is within the first few meetings or the first few calls with a candidate is establish exactly what their requirements are, and then I'll often not book an interview in until I know that client is going to proceed at that level. I think that the technical ranking can sometimes throw that off a bit. There are organizations out there that might do a sort of tech assessment or a technical test, and then they base that candidate's salary on that kind of ability level. That can change the market quite a bit. So yeah, there's stuff that but it depends on the firm. It depends on the specific hiring manager. But I would say over the last 18 months, that element of the market has improved in a big way, because now hiring managers have more time to do Zoom meetings with people. They're not rushed into meetings shortly afterwards. I mean, you still got meetings, right? But not as many in person as you once did. And I think over the last 18 months, that in the industry, certainly from my experience, has got a lot better. And of course, there's always going to be cases. I mean, I talk to candidates every day who have had it elsewhere and have had it with organisations that they're interviewing for directly or through another recruiter. So it's always going to happen, because a large part of recruitment is to do with negotiating packages. But yeah, that's my kind of analysis on that, if you like, over the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And, things have definitely changed. And I think a lot of people realize that they actually like the work-life balance that the working from home provides. And I've seen a lot of people, making some changes now when they have to go back to the office or partially go back to the office and realize
Yeah.
that they don't want that. So you've probably seen flux of people changing roles. So tell me about, so you help somebody, get the position, and then I'm assuming you follow up with them. So from your experience, what makes the placement successful, and what can a candidate do to make sure that they excel the first 60 to 90 days? And because that's really, perception is reality, and you create that perception of a great hire, the first several weeks really when you join.
Yeah. So for me, what makes a successful placement is somebody staying there and then getting promoted within the first year to 18 months. For me, that's immediate feedback on a job well done. And all of my clients, they understand that, and that's why they keep coming back to me for more hires, and that's why we're able to win new clients, because we have those success stories that go over and are shared within the industry. From a candidate's perspective, it's very easy once you're on board to ascertain what successful 6 months looks like. You can talk to your hiring manager on day one to find that information out. You can immediately ask about the career path, the promotion plan, the training or the certification funding that's on offer, and then establish that. One of the things about the market that's so good is, if you don't have your path to progression clear enough, then have that conversation. And if you still can't get that path cleared up, look to move, because most of the businesses out there right now have people who are all on some sort of mission, some sort of path to success. That might be getting from senior consultant to manager, or it might be getting from like senior lead to MD. So, everyone knows what they need to do to get promoted. So if you don't know that, ask the question. And if it's for whatever reason cloudy, start to ask the question more, and then start to think, okay, is this really what I signed up for? Is this really where I want to be in a year's time, doing the same thing for the same company and the same people? Or is there somewhere better for me with more of what I'm after, So, that'd be my two answers on that.
And how do you prevent a mismatch of expectations, where either from a cultural perspective, sometimes that's has a great impact on the satisfaction of of the job and so on. So, how do you prevent that as a recruiter? How do you help the hiring companies to kind of make sure that they match, so the job description is exactly what the person's going to be? Because there's a lot of mismatches,
Yeah.
and then how do you test for cultural fit? A lot of times, you don't know what you don't know until you actually join.
Yeah, you're right. And there are a lot of job descriptions out there that are incredibly lengthy. There's been a few shared on LinkedIn by some quite well-known cybersecurity people who are kind of having a laugh and a joke about finding someone with 2 years of experience in a specific language that's been around for a year, or looking for an endless amount of certifications and 10 years of experience, but paying the salary that you'd expect with 2-3 years experience. So, there are some strange and rather long-winded job descriptions out there, and that's always going to be part of the market. Finding the right culture fit. That's a fascinating topic because everyone's different. Everyone likes to do different things outside of work, has different passions, has different hobbies, and all of that sort of stuff. And if you try and align those two worlds, it's very difficult to get a match. But what I know about in cyber is the certain verticals we cover, most of the teams are passionate about those particular areas. So if someone's a top of their game pen tester, for example, they'll live and breathe pen testing. They'll do that sort of stuff outside of work. They'll have their own labs running. They might be online with certain forums. They might be doing certain challenges. And then they all come together and they kind of view that in a similar way. If someone's in information security risk, for example, again, they might be very interested in learning about new ways of doing that within the market. So the teams they join are similar people. So I think it all comes down to the company. If the company's got a clear enough vision and a clear enough path for that hire, then the culture will just work because everyone's on the same page, everyone's on the same path. But if the role and the sort of goal for that role isn't clear enough, I think that's when you can have kind of issues with culture. And of course, culture shifts, right? It's all different depending upon who joins, and a few bad hires can really spoil culture. And unfortunately, I've seen some companies that have done that. They've had really good leaders leave. That's completely shifted the way the business is. I think it's Richard Branson who said that, what is a company? It's just a group of people at the end of the day, right? So you have to make sure that you've got the right people to have your right culture. So a lot of it comes from within, but I think a big part of it is down to the vision and the goals that those companies have for themselves.
Yeah, that's a fantastic response. Thank you for that. And it is a fascinating topic as well. Cultural is something that cultural fit is something that not totally always talked about. And so I would love to dive a few minutes in regards to what you see as industry trends right now. What are kind of the hot hires that you're working on? And how, if you had a kind of the roadmap or crystal ball in terms of what's happening in the next several months, 6 to 12 months, what would that look like?
Yeah, so right now the biggest part of the market is the whole piece around dealing with an incident, dealing with a breach, dealing with a hack or an attack. So the whole focus right now is on those several different offerings that can make that less likely or less damaging when it does take place. So we're seeing a huge bounce back in ethical hacking positions and penetration testing positions. these were the first to get paused when the pandemic was hitting, because they were seen as a kind of expensive luxury, if you like. So we've seen a massive bounce back in that area. We've seen a lot of consulting positions pick up as well. There's organizations out there now that are really interested in improving their security posture and improving their security offering, whether that be internally or whether that be putting in to have some, new bolt-ons or new additions to what they have in place already. That's been a big part of the market. Incident response is massive right now. Taking people into places and helping clients out at a very difficult time just after a breach. That's really busy right now. The fintech area is booming. Fintechs are hiring an incredible amount of cybersecurity people as they scale up, because if they take on a new jurisdiction or they increase a team by 20, 30 people, you have all of those cybersecurity risks and all those cybersecurity problems that come with that. So kind of hiring as a result of that. Application security is massive. I think that more and more organizations are dependent upon new applications to do things, and that always creates security problems. We've seen a lot recently in the security development positions. So we've seen a lot of security developers looking at the code, making sure the code is secure, working with the development team to make sure that anything they're creating is going to be completely cyber secure. So that's been a big part of the market. So I think we're going to see increases in all of that moving forward. I think current market conditions are probably a little bit quiet because everyone's down at the beach. So we've still had a very busy August, but I think this Q4 coming up is going to be massive. I think it's going to be the end to a very busy year in cyber, and I think all the hiring that I just mentioned is just going to continue to skyrocket in terms of volumes and in terms of market activity.
Well, it's definitely good news for all the members here at the New York Information Security Meetup. I wanted to ask you if you had an advice for somebody to trying to bulletproof their career, if you wish, because you have to kind of skate to where the puck is, not where the puck is right now. So, and it takes a little while to hone in on those skills that potentially are going to be very much in demand in the future. And sometimes it's unpredictable, as you mentioned. During the pandemic, pen testers were seen as, or ethical hackers were seen as luxury, and then all of a sudden there's 12, 18 months later, there's a spike in demand for those. But again, from your expert opinion, what can someone do to really make sure that they're attractive to future hires?
So the best thing about cybersecurity is how, and this is a great example with the New York Information Security Meetup, is how much of a community-led industry it is. We've got some of the most humble leaders in cybersecurity that are open to advice, and they're open to talk to you and respond to you when you reach out to them. That really is an amazing part of the market, and that is a tool that people can use to their advantage, right? I mean, it's not doing it in a greedy or a selfish way, but everything you want to know is in someone else's head. So go and ask the questions that are going to help you get there. If there's a CISO that you respect, or there's a senior partner at a firm that you look up to, or you've seen them do a blog, you follow them on Instagram, or you follow them on Twitter, or you see their posts and you think, what, that guy or that girl is amazing. Connect with them and get a feel for where they think things are going, because the chances are they're going to know more than you do, right? So you can tap into that, and that's really going to help you out in a big way. Of course, recruiters can give you advice as to where hiring trends going and what's big right now, because we're on the pulse, right? I mean, we know when positions come live. We know who's going to be hiring. I mean, I'm sitting here today knowing who's going to be hiring in mid-September and what they're going to be hiring for. So, connect with experienced recruiters who are known for the space that you cover. But my advice would be, network with the senior leaders in the space that you look up to and that you respect, because they're going to know where it's going, and they've probably been ahead of the curve a few times before in their career. So they've got some useful stuff for you to get from them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love that you mentioned that everything you want to know is somebody's head, and well, this was the reason why I got you to be on the show, because I think you're providing tremendous feedback and knowledge about the whole area of recruitment.
Thank you.
Um, so, why do you think some companies don't use recruiters at all? You can see like on the ads that say no recruiters. Why is that? How do you think they're doing?
I mean, I've got to be careful what I say here, right? Like,
We can bleep
yeah,
that later on.
he's setting me up. This question is like a mousetrap.
Hey, no
I
one said
mean,
it's going to be easy, Ed.
yeah. I mean, look, to be honest with you, some companies are worried about, maybe worried about costs, okay, and you know, the fees attached to hiring someone from a recruiter. But it's a very short-sighted view, in my opinion, because if you're on the tools doing the job for your business, that is your job. Okay. I mean, you could laugh and say that's a full-time job. Of course it is. It's the job that you've been hired to do, or it's the job that you've started the business to do. Throw into the mix scanning for CVs, making approaches to relevant talent, selling that opportunity to that talent, booking that talent in for an interview. You see where I'm going with this? Right, there's quite a bit to it, and it's immensely time consuming. And I think that those companies just aren't really aware as to how much goes into it and how much of a burden it can be for them, because recruitment can be a mess, and done badly, you could do months of work, months of investment in someone who just stays where they were or just completely vanishes from you. So I think those companies are maybe, of course, it's circumstantial, right? But maybe they are naive to thinking that they can just do it themselves. Maybe they've done it themselves before and they've got lucky, or maybe they've done it themselves before and it's been so recent that they haven't really realized that they haven't got that long-term talent on board. They've just got a quick fix who, may leave them or may be unhappy in the future, all sorts of stuff. So I think for some companies, they don't really understand just how much time it takes. For some, they're worried about cost because they're trying to keep their overheads down. And for some, they just haven't really realized yet the value that a good networked, experienced cyber recruiter can do for them, because, that's an expert in your market. If you go to a surgeon, for example, you're not going to choose that surgeon based on cost, right? You're not going to get the cheapest guy. There was a really funny picture on the internet about a tattoo on someone's back of a lion. You might have seen it, like a silly cartoon lion, and it was just an awful job. And it was like, what happens when you base your your experts on cost? So it's all those things. But if you press the market and understand what value can be added to you, I think a lot more companies would use recruiters. Um,
And the cost of
and
the cost of a bad hire as well. If you ended up, I mean,
monumental.
those are
Yeah.
tremendous. I mean, hiring somebody who's who does not fit, and then getting a new person on board afterwards. The cost is tremendous, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've done some work in the past with organizations where we've shown them, the cost of bad hires made. I mean, I did some work with an insurance client of mine and a law firm client of mine who showed me the salary spent on people over a certain time frame of bad hires that didn't work out. And the figure was insane. Like, I couldn't believe how much they'd spent on people that are no longer working for them, who at the time they thought were perfect hires. Now, that's a scary enough figure as it is, but you don't realize the opportunity cost on top of that. So the time spent with other people, so the HR people talking to them, or their manager chasing them up on something that they haven't done, then the manager not being able to be fully utilized, or the manager not being able to fully do their job. All of these knock-on effects are massive. We mentioned about culture earlier as well. You had a few people in who are the wrong hires. That rocks your culture in a big, big way. I've got a client of mine, a fintech client of mine. One of the founders does the final stage interviews for everyone who joins. And the reason he does that, and I mean, they've grown massively, but the reason he does that is just to protect that culture, because he knows as well as I do, and he knows as well as most people do, that one bad hire will really rock that business and really change their identity and change their culture. So yeah, the cost is huge. And I think some companies aren't really aware as to how much bad hiring can cost them, because it can be devastating. It really can.
Yeah, totally. And it's something that companies don't necessarily factor in. As you mentioned, they just see like the kind of the flat cost associated with hiring a recruitment company. So tell me, and I would love to continue, but we're kind of running short on time, and maybe we'll bring you into a talk about specific topics. But tell me about how to best approach you and your company to get advice or potentially get hired and so on. And what is the kind of the best practice when somebody reaches out to you?
So I think the best practice is like I said earlier, be in a position to get across what you want from that interaction with someone. So, if you want a specific role within a specific area, reach out with that information right away. Explain the need you have, explain the want that you have very early on. So immediately it's a good conversation where someone has something to go on. For approaching me, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I've got a network of, I think I've got sort of 17,000 cyber connections on there now. And that's building. I love it. I love connecting with people and checking in with people and seeing them move up within their careers. For BeecherMadden, you can apply on our site. You can send me a profile. You can reach out to any of the team members at any point in time. Send them over a profile, let them know what you're looking for, that sort of stuff. But yeah, just within your intro message or your intro email or your intro call, explain what you want to be doing. I'm old-fashioned in the sense that I love being on the phone with people, because I can learn so much from someone on a call or a Zoom or a Teams. It's amazing. Whereas back and forth on email, you can't really get that across. I mean, how am I going to know if someone wants a laugh and a joke on an email? It's difficult, right? It's difficult to ascertain that. So, give me a call if you're in my space or you've seen something that you want to be doing that I'm posting for, or you just want to get on my radar. Give me a call, drop me a line. I'm always ready to have a conversation with good people.
Thanks, Edward. And it's been a really enlightening conversation. Thank you very much for the contribution to the space overall and helping out the community. You're providing a valuable service, and the insight you provided was tremendous. So thank you again for joining.
Thanks
for spending the time with me. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you in person, maybe one day. Since you do a lot of recruitment here in the US, maybe I host in-person events in New York City. So you're more than welcome to participate once things come down.
Yeah, when we can get out of London again. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be great. Thanks for having me, David. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks all for joining. Looking to see you all in this